A great honor, that's what former President Trump says about getting convicted as he vows to win both on appeal and in elections. More from our reporter on the ground at Trump's first post-verdict press conference. President Biden responding to Trump's guilty verdict, he says no one is above the law, calling Trump's rhetoric dangerous. What does former President Trump's unprecedented conviction have on Wall Street? We talked to a financial analyst to find out. Republican lawmakers called Trump's conviction a travesty. Now they're asking Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg to testify as part of the investigations into the weaponization of the judicial system. A new Vermont law will force oil and gas producers to pay their share of the cost of environmental damage. Former President Trump vows to fight the guilty verdict as he calls it a great honor, but the formal appeal might not come for a few months. NTD's Iris Tao has more from Trump's press conference today, right at Trump Tower.
Less than a day after he was convicted on all 34 counts of falsifying business records, former President Trump vows to appeal the conviction, which he calls an honor.
Because I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to save our country and to save our Constitution. I don't mind. So we will continue the fight.
That said, Trump called the trial very unfair, citing several potential grounds for appeal, including trial's venue, the judge himself, and witnesses who are not called.
We're going to be appealing it on many different things. He wouldn't allow us to have witnesses. He wouldn't allow us to talk.
He also told us that he had wanted to testify on his own behalf, but was warned against doing so.
And don't testify, because they'll get you on something that you said slightly wrong, and then they sue you for perjury.
And President Biden's campaign, meanwhile, is also fundraising off Trump's verdict, telling voters that the threat Trump poses to our democracy has never been greater, adding that the only way to stop Trump would be at the ballot box. And now Judge Juan Merchan has set a sentencing hearing in this case for July 11th, just a few days before the RNC, or Republican National Convention, where Trump will get officially nominated. And any appeal will have to come after the sentencing. Reporting from New York City, Iris Tao, NTD News.
Following yesterday's historic jury decision against Trump, the former president is getting a positive boost from donors. During the past 24 hours, his supporters are opening up their wallets by giving money in record numbers. Trump told reporters today that the campaign website raised a record $39 million in a 10-hour period. The majority of the donations came from ordinary people. 30% of it came from first-time Trump donors. NTD's Daniel Monahan tells us that so many donations flooded the website at once, it caused problems for people looking to contribute.
Trump, what do you have to say to the American people?
Minutes after the guilty verdict, an influx of donations to Trump's presidential campaign caused his donation page to temporarily become unavailable. The page displayed a 500 error stating something went wrong. The Trump campaign later confirmed that the page was down due to a flood of donations. The page has since gone back up. Some large donations came from Silicon Valley tech investor Sean McGuire, who donated $300,000 to Trump's campaign, and former Congressman Lee Zeldin, who said he secured an $800,000 donation for Trump's joint fundraising committee. Casino billionaire Miriam Adelson and hotel chain owner Robert Bigelow also promised donations. Senator J.D. Vance took to X to say that the best way to fight back right now is to donate to the Trump campaign. Vance shared a link to a new Never Surrender donation page that features a message from the former president. "I'm a political prisoner," reads the message, which features President Trump's signature and a photo of his mugshot. "I was just convicted in a rigged political witch hunt trial."
Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are reacting to the conviction. Democrats have asked for respect for the verdict. House Republicans have summoned Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg to testify before Congress next week. NTD's Washington correspondent Luis Martinez has more on lawmakers' differing opinions.
In the House of Representatives, House Freedom Caucus members like Congressman Byron Donalds slammed the conviction against former President Donald Trump as political persecution and particularly criticized Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg and Judge Merchan for their alleged political bias.
A lot of people are looking at this case and they see it for what it is. It is a sham. This was a railroad persecution of Donald Trump simply because Alvin Bragg and a lot of radical Democrats in our country wanted to get Donald Trump. They don't view this as justice, and neither do I.
Other House Freedom Caucus members called the trial a travesty and reiterated their support of former President Donald Trump. Republican senators were more tame, like Senator Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma, who focused on the complexities and political circumstances surrounding the trial.
And I do question the fact that could Trump actually get a fair trial there in New York when you're supposed to be, obviously your peers are supposed to be the ones that's judging you when you understand this is political moving forward, but the jury did their job. Look, this case is going to be appealed. It's going to be appealed, and most people will say that this is going to be overturned, and it will be eventually.
Speaker of the House Mike Johnson called the verdict shameful and showed confidence that former President Trump would appeal and be acquitted. Similarly, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell tweeted that he expects the process to be overturned. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan has announced that next week he will be holding a hearing to depose Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg as part of his investigations into the weaponization of the judicial system. Democrats, conversely, have welcomed the verdict. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries called for political leaders to respect the verdict, while Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer posted on X that no one is above the law and the verdict speaks for itself. Others, like Congressman Jerry Connolly, simply stated that Trump is now a convicted felon, a legal fact that Democrats will likely use during re-election efforts. And lastly, Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia posted on X this Friday that he has registered as an independent, the timing of which has left many to speculate whether Trump's conviction influenced his decision. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Luis Eduardo Martinez, NTD News.
President Biden speaking on the verdict today while also announcing a new ceasefire proposal in Gaza. NTD's Washington correspondent Jack Bradley is at the White House. Jack, first, what's Biden saying about the verdict?
Good afternoon, Brendan. Well, President Biden came out and told reporters today that the verdict shows that nobody is above the law. He also said that Trump, in this case, his rhetoric on it has been dangerous. Let's take a look.
And it's reckless, it's dangerous, it's irresponsible for anyone to say this was rigged just because they don't like the verdict. Our justice system has endured for nearly 250 years, and it literally is the cornerstone of America, our justice system. The justice system should be respected.
Now, the Biden campaign has previously been pretty quiet on this issue, Brendan, but them sending a press conference outside of the trial courthouse during closing arguments earlier this week was a sign that they're speaking out more about it. President Trump has said that the Biden campaign has been behind this case since the very beginning, weaponizing the justice system, and that this is verifying that. Now, President Biden also during press conference today came out and said that Israel has proposed a new ceasefire deal with Hamas. It's a three-phase plan. The first phase involves a 6-week full ceasefire in which Israel will begin to completely remove all of their personnel from Gaza and withdraw all forces from there, releasing hostages from the Palestinian side will release hostages, some of them during these first 6 weeks, and Palestinians displaced and moved to other parts of away from the evacuation zones will be able to go back home. The next phase involves a permanent end to all hostilities and releasing more hostages. And then finally, the third phase would be a major reconstruction of Gaza. President Biden has urged all Israelis and Hamas to get on board with this deal. Watch.
If Hamas fails to fulfill its commitments under the deal, Israel can resume military operations. But Egypt and Qatar have assured me, and they are continuing to work to ensure that Hamas doesn't do that. The United States will help ensure that Israel lives up to their obligations as well. That's what this deal says. That's what it says.
Thank you
now,
for the
Hamas
update.
has yet to respond to the ceasefire deal. We'll wait and see what comes out, Brendan. But I just want to move on to an update in Ukraine. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Biden has told Ukraine that they can start striking targets within Russia, which is a major change in the U.S. policy here. And Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has said that this act could lead to a major escalation in the war. So we'll wait and see what happens here. Back to you.
Thank you for the updates, Jack. Elon Musk's social media platform X will stage an online town hall with former President Trump. The live stream will also be shown on the cable network News Nation. According to New York Post, Trump will answer submitted questions during the live stream event. The social media company is also planning a similar town hall with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is running for president as an independent. The town hall comes 3 years after Trump was suspended from the site in the wake of the Jan 6th Capitol disturbance. Could Trump's conviction in court yesterday send a ripple effect through Wall Street and the stock exchange? NTD's Fiona G. spoke to a financial analyst to find out more.
Afternoon, Joseph. As I'm sure most people have heard by now, former President Trump was found guilty yesterday on all 34 counts of his alleged hush money trial. But tell me, what has the reaction been in the finance circles? What are people around you saying?
Thank you for having me. Well, for the verdict and its market impact, there's essentially been none. For the verdict itself, I don't think there's any immediate market impact, but I think long term, the willingness of the New York State legal community and the New York State Democratic establishment to take charges like this against a presidential candidate, I think is very unsettling for the legal basis in New York. And I think that's something that a lot of large operators, fund operators, traders, things like that, are going to be looking at very carefully. This is the kind of thing that makes people think long term about whether this should perhaps be the base for their financial operations.
And there are also reports now that a growing number of Wall Street executives are actually leaning towards supporting Trump in the upcoming election. These include people from Pershing Square Capital Management founder and billionaire Bill Ackman and Blackstone Inc. Chief Executive Officer Steve Schwarzman, among others. And these were people who at some point or another had actually supported Trump's opponents, but now they're changing tunes. Why do you think that is?
It's an interesting change. I think both in 2016 and 2020, Wall Street money was largely behind the Democrats, either Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden. I think there are a couple of things happening here. One is that the Biden administration, in many of its aspects, has been chaotic. It's also been that way as far as the economic policies that it's followed. So when you combine that with the fact that most people, the majority of people, I think it's about 20% of the electorate, feels that the Trump administration, the previous one, was better for them personally and better economically than the current Biden administration. And you put on top of that the willingness that the New York State Democratic organization and judicial system has to bend the law to their benefit of a definitely political nature. I think all of these things are combining to make many people who have funds here and operations here uneasy. And I think that's what's moving this.
And Joseph, one last question. What policies are people on Wall Street hoping to see from the next president, whoever that may be?
Well, I think that would hope to have, obviously investment-friendly policies, but primarily just more economic growth. The first quarter of this year, growth has dropped to 1.3%. I think that both the electorate and the Wall Street community feels that you will get better growth under a new Trump administration than you're headed for right now under the Biden. And I think that's the main driving factor as far as economics go.
Well, thank you so much, Joseph.
Thank you very much for having me. You have a good day.
You too.
Vermont is enacting a new law requiring gas and oil companies to pay a share of the cost of environmental damage. The Green Mountain state is the first in the nation to impose this measure. Republican Governor Phil Scott allowed the bill to become law without his signature late Thursday. Scott told his Democrat-led legislature that taking on big oil is a risky proposition. He says he's concerned that if the state fails in this legal challenge, it will set precedent and hamper other states' ability to recover damages. Maryland, Massachusetts, and New York are considering similar measures. June 4th is the 35th anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. On that day, the Chinese army unleashed weapons of war on unarmed students, killing thousands without repercussion. Now, decades after the slaughter, has the West finally found the answer to what the true nature of the Chinese Communist Party is? Find out when NTD's China in Focus airs a special report this Saturday.
35 years ago, the Chinese Communist Party killed thousands of unarmed students with tanks and machine guns while the whole world watched.
The worst part of it, they did this without any consequence. It wants to be the master of the earth, the engineers of human souls.
The United States has embraced China, and that decision is having big impacts here in America.
The influence of communism, unfortunately, looks a lot like the same kind of intolerance of viewpoints and differing opinions and freedom and liberty.
Hear from Zhou Fengshuo, a former student leader in China's 1989 Tiananmen massacre, and Tom Oliverson, a state representative in Texas, as they work to counter communism and its influence in the United States. That's Saturday, June 1st on China in Focus.
When we come back, a political power shift may be soon happening in Europe. EU elections are coming with polls suggesting a party change from liberal to conservative.
The highest art is beautiful, breathtaking, timeless, and moving. Experience art with 5,000 years of history, inspired by the divine. Experience Shen Yun.
Hi, folks. Do you trust this economy? What if you could receive a strong fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? And what if you were in control? You could turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. What if your interest was compounded daily, you were paid monthly, and there were absolutely no fees? And what if you could have peace of mind because there was no attack on your principal if you ever needed your money back? Well, folks, there is an investment with all of these features. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return with YRefi, and they don't care about what happens with the stock market or the Fed. And best of all, they receive their statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST. Or log on to investyrrefi.com. That's investyrrefi.com. YRefi, do well by doing good.
The biggest investigation in FBI history.
There are more than 1,100 arrests.
I sacrificed my dream job to share this information with the American people.
Those involved must be held accountable.
He's an innocent man.
It's going to change narratives no matter what your political perspective is.
According to ancient Chinese medicine, purslane is considered a medicinal herb and is used to help lower cholesterol, improve vascular functions, and prevent diabetes. Perilla seeds can nourish the lungs and spleen. It is used to treat asthma and improve pulmonary functions. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds from Hwangmae Mountain in South Korea. It contains over 90% of omega-3, 6, 7, and 9, the highest concentration possible without chemical additives. The soft gel is made of natural seaweed. It is 100% organic and vegan. Both adults and children can take it with peace of mind. Ancient recipes were passed down from heaven to bring prosperity and longevity. Puritang green vegetable omega-3.
Using American-supplied weapons to attack targets inside Russia, Secretary of State Antony Blinken now confirms that President Biden is allowing Ukraine to attack the other side of the border. Here's Blinken in Prague explaining the decision.
Over the past few weeks, Ukraine came to us and asked for the authorization to use weapons that we're providing to defend against this aggression, including against Russian forces that are massing on the Russian side of the border and then attacking into Ukraine. That went right to the president, and as you've heard, he's approved the use of our weapons for that purpose.
Using Western-made weapons to strike inside Russia has been a hot topic all week long. Many Western allies say Ukraine should be allowed to do that. Russian President Vladimir Putin says giving permission to do this could trigger a global conflict. Blinken explains they're now allowing it because the U.S. is adapting its strategy to the battleground. Russian attacks have devastated eastern Ukraine in the past month. Ukraine can now use American-supplied weapons to hit Russian arms storage located across Ukraine's eastern border in Russia. For the first time in its history, the European Parliament could have a nationalist majority. Polls are showing a lead for nationalist and conservative groups across member states. Some experts say this stems from a rejection of EU rules over key topics such as immigration or agriculture. NTD's France reporter David Vives talks to a doctor of philosophy who provides some answers on why this will matter.
Far-right members of the European Parliament are likely to outnumber those from the center-right European People's Party in the upcoming elections. According to political polls, the largest party, the EPP, would secure 170 seats. 6 different groups belonging to the nationalist wing would together secure 228 seats, although unity among those groups remains to be built. One reason for this shift is a rejection of the EU establishment, as illustrated earlier this year by the many farmers' protests across the continent. EU regulations on illegal immigration and inflation, both key topics, have also been criticized by nationalists in different member states. Belgian PhD and author David Engels says there is a trend of citizens wanting to change how the EU works.
They are against the reality of what the European Union has become, especially in these last years or decades. We would see the slow emergence of an alternative to the European Union within the so-called populist parties, and that might be, in the long run, a game changer.
There are several institutions, such as the EU Commission and the EU Council, which are the main crafters of regulations on the continent. In comparison, Engels says the European Parliament doesn't have much power, but has moral ground.
The European Parliament is essentially restricted to a certain part of legislation. It has none or not much, at least, impact on the Commission. So the European Parliament's power is essentially symbolic. It doesn't have necessarily an institutional impact, but it has a propagandistic impact. It has a media impact.
European citizens will vote for members of Parliament from June 6th to 9th. David Vives, NTD News, Paris.
Elon Musk has agreed to testify in an investigation into his $44 billion acquisition of Twitter. He won't appeal a court order to comply with the Securities and Exchange Commission subpoena. The SEC filed a lawsuit in October 2023 after Musk refused to appear. He had already testified twice in July 2022. However, the SEC said that additional testimony was necessary due to a slew of new documents it received from various parties. The agency says that it had followed all appropriate administrative steps in seeking Musk's cooperation. However, his, quote, blatant refusal to comply required a court's intervention to compel him to testify. Musk has accused the SEC of harassment. A report that measures consumer spending is suggesting that inflation may be easing. Here is NTD's Don Ma with today's Business Matters.
Okay, thanks, Brandon. So the inflation gauge that is closely watched by the Federal Reserve cooled slightly last month. And this is a potential sign that inflation may be easing after running high in the first 3 months of this year. Now, the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index increased 0.3% last month. And this is according to the Commerce Department's Bureau of Economic Analysis today. And the Federal Reserve tends to favor this inflation gauge over the better-known Consumer Price Index. Now, the PCE price index tries to account for changes in how people shop when inflation jumps. It can capture, for example, when consumers switch from pricier national brands to cheaper store brands. And Fed officials have said they would need to see at least several mild inflation reports before they would be comfortable cutting their benchmark interest rates. All right, that's all from me. Back to you, Brandon.
Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Brendan Fallon. Have a nice weekend.
People often ask, where's the best place in Korea to do business?
Chongbuk-free economic zone, of course. Take the first step to a successful investment and enjoy a bright future with CP Petchu.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting getfedupnow.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients. Prevent children from dropping out of school. Support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit getfedupnow.org.
The glory of piano masterpieces from the Baroque, Classical, and Romantic periods. New Tang Dynasty Television invites you to join the 2024 NTD International Piano Competition. Together, we preserve and revitalize the art of authentic classical piano music. October 14th to the 19th at the Kaufman Music Center in New York City. Apply now at piano.ntdtv.com.
There are real consequences to controlled media. And NTD's founders know them firsthand. Our freedom of thought is the price. This is the lesson that guides us in everything we do.
So there's the tear gas there.
We know the value of a free society. And we take seriously the responsibility to preserve it. We are NTD.